All right, Zach, welcome in. I'm really happy to have you here today and just sharing your experience. You actually, it's been more than 13 weeks, but probably around 4 months. We've been working together and you just really finished this journey. And we're just here today to learn more about, yeah, your experience doing this inner work and just telling the world about yourself and how it went for you. So, my first question to you is just looking back 4 months ago, before, we got started, just, yeah, how was your day to day, just experiencing day to day different than even just when you started, as you just think about it now?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, starting out, I really just felt kind of like in a state of chaos, not really having direction, not really knowing how to really process all of the things that were going on around me. Being an entrepreneur, being a leader, life is always coming at me a million miles a minute. And so, prior to working with you, it's was difficult to kind of find my bearing in terms of how to handle everything that was going on around me.
Nice. And how do you experience things now after having done that at work, your day to day?
Yeah, well, things still come at me a million miles a minute. So it's not that life slowed down at all, but it's that I'm now able to find peace throughout all of it. That I don't have to have my peace be conditional on, like, I can be peaceful after I get this done. I can actually be peaceful before, during, and after everything I'm doing. And it just makes a lot of difference, and I'm able to retain a lot more energy that way too.
Awesome. Yeah, I've definitely seen it in you. Just looking back, you sent me some pretty big breakthroughs, like almost every like 3 weeks. I get a huge breakthrough from you. You text me, and you sent me one a few days ago. But just looking back, what were just the biggest changes that you've just seen in yourself? Just, yeah, how you experience life, how you feel, how you operate in the world. Just what's been the biggest things for you?
I think one of the biggest things that comes to mind for me is just my ability to allow myself to feel now. Whereas before, I didn't really allow myself or afford myself that permission to actually feel and to actually process and to actually allow myself to be with myself and create a safe space for myself. So I think the biggest one for me that comes to mind is just allowing myself to be able to feel and to create a safe space to do that for myself, and that I always have that ability.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I work with a lot of men, as you know, right? And often we're so stuck in our heads and we're over intellectualizing, and it's because it's a safe place to be, or so we thought, right? What would you say, like, yeah, we're numbed out, but what would you say, like, just the main benefits are of getting into the emotional world and being able to navigate that for you?
Well, for me, like the biggest factor and the biggest benefit noticeably right away is you're just immediately lighter. Instead of walking around with that like pit in your stomach or that heavy heart or head, you can walk around immediately and noticeably lighter, where that also offers more clarity, more energy, more focus, the ability to prioritize, and all coming from the underlying current and the underlying vibration of peace by offloading and actually allowing yourself to feel what's needed to be felt.
Yeah, well put. I want to talk a little bit about actually what you do, and your shirt actually says it all. But I would like you, because it's so relevant to the work that people who are watching this or be interested in. You mind explaining a little about what you even do professionally as an entrepreneur and what you're building?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm the founder of Silo Vibe Church. We're one of the world's fastest growing psychedelic nonprofit organizations. We host retreats, we have weekly services, and as a matter of fact, we're just waiting on our Rolling Stone article to be released about one of the last retreats. So that's really cool. And we have members all over the country, and our mission is to be able to provide natural medicines, specifically psilocybin and DMT, to as many people that could safely benefit as possible. And so it's been a really amazing journey over the last 2 years now, being able to do that.
Yeah, it's such an incredible business. I love it, and I love being able to just yeah, work with people to do incredible things like that, especially in the consciousness and healing space. And so yeah, like you're already in the healing space, and I know you've done all sorts of healing modalities and meditations, things that are out there. Just having done this work, how would you almost like how is it different, or what is it that provides that maybe, even someone who's done psychedelics and understands the benefits of them, what is it about the work that we do here that maybe is just different or adds something where maybe the other modalities just, yeah, they're not quite there?
Yeah, I love that you asked this question. I was actually discussing this with our some of our members last night at the service, and the biggest difference for me is because I've been practicing, holistic style approaches to spiritual, mental, emotional well-being for several years now, at least. Well, probably I would say the last fairly actively the last probably 11 or 12 years. So pretty for quite some time. And what I've really noticed the biggest differences between traditional modalities such as like meditation or breath work versus or even psychedelics versus the work that we are doing is the other modalities can easily be what I would call used for spiritual bypassing, where you're just trying to skip ahead to the peace, right? And to the good feeling, almost treating it as a superficial band-aid, but not actually ever addressing what's really going on underneath. And so the difference is that we're not, and the work that you're doing is that we're not trying to mask any of the emotions. We're not trying to run away from any of the feelings. We're not even trying to get them to go away. We're actually respecting them as a part of ourselves. And by allowing that part, we're allowing ourselves to feel and express. And then the natural byproduct of the core vibration is where peace remains. So we're actually digging to the peace underneath rather than trying to slap some superficial piece over the top, which sometimes people can use meditation, breath work, and yoga for, kind of as like this splint or this bandage, over the wound, as opposed to allowing the the yucky feelings inside or the lower vibrational feelings inside, allowing them to express themselves, transmuting them. Yes, last night I talked about alchemizing them into gold, turning the lower vibrations into peace, and going through that process. And so it looks very different, both in practice and in result, when you're actually removing everything, and what's left is you, which is peace, which is love, which is contentment, as opposed to just trying to slap something over the top superficially.
You explained it so well. And I was actually going on to my next question too, which is more or less, how does this work? People look on the outside, well, what am I actually doing? And you explained it, but you talk about even just like the experience of going through it and what that feels like of like, okay, like they might be like, okay, what are we doing during a session? So is there a way that you could explain it or articulate it that, yeah, like they could just have a more concrete of ideas. What do we actually do in order to let go of these lower vibrations and traumas, beliefs, and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the way it starts is, and what we've done is the ability to just start with kind of a body scan and just kind of check in with ourselves and say, okay, hey, where am I feeling tension, or where is there tension? And that's a really novel idea to the mass majority of the population too. We just don't do that, even these little check-ins. And then just really analyzing where there may be some stuck energy or some stuck emotions, some past trauma, some what we've learned and what I've learned is false beliefs, things that just aren't even true, things that I convinced myself that are true. And so we find those energy points and we just shine the light of our awareness on them. And we allow it. And just by the allowing is what allows it to be processed and to be felt and then to be released. And so, every session is just this unpacking of feeling and basically ah, disproving, you take, let me put this back here. And it's really about disproving the lies that we've told ourselves for so many years, the false beliefs, the beliefs that we've been carrying since we were little kids. And to me, that's what these sessions have really held, and what they've been about is allowing ourselves to feel so that it can be processed and released, and undoing or exposing the lies.
Yeah, love that. Just talking about the sessions and a lot of the work too, right? Especially the work that I like to help people with is helping them become their own healers. And you talked about actually, well, you sent me a text maybe about a week ago or a few days ago talking about how you navigated this other experience that came up. You might even just like sharing that and how actually being able to have your own tools just yeah, just helped you.
Yeah, well, that was a particular morning where I was feeling a little more overwhelmed and woke up with a little bit of anxiety. And instead of just letting that run rampant, which would have been what I used to do and would have done in the past, is just allow it to fester and just grow and turn into like this monster, which just produces all of this resistance. Because instead of allowing it, I'm like, I don't want to feel this, and it's just creating, more. The more resistance creates, and it gets bigger and bigger. It's funny, the allowing makes it shrink, but the resistance amplifies it, right? And so instead, I just decided to sit down and do what I call like a feeling session, and at this point, and just exactly what I described before, just sitting with myself, allowing the emotion, being curious about the emotion, and allowing it to process without trying to change it, and just allowing it, asking it questions like what do you want me to know? And in that particular session, it told me what I want you to know is, talking to the feeling, is that the peace you are looking to accomplish after you get the things done that you're worried about can be attained right now. That you don't have to wait until the thing's done to allow yourself to feel peace. That you can achieve it before, during, and after. And that was like that first epiphany for me, or the next level epiphany. And I was like, wow. I was like, so you're saying that I can just maintain this level of peace whenever I choose to, whenever I stay in awareness, whenever I want to, and it's not based on what I accomplish or what I don't accomplish for the day. And so that was really profound for me, and really helpful.
That's incredible. One of the things that, we worked on a lot, right, is just, yeah, letting go of needing the outside world, essentially, whether it's our relationships that we think we're dependent on or business success or anything like that, and just letting that go and creating that freedom. And one of the biggest, like a lot of people are watching this and work with a lot of just male entrepreneurs. And one of the biggest things they always just tell me that they want most out of everything beyond the money, the women, is just they just want to be. And when they can finally, let go of just that constant trauma and ego of just chasing and grinding, they just feel more at peace. Can you just talk a little bit about just even your role as, a business owner, entrepreneur, maybe how this work has affected, yeah, you and your state of mind, your ability to, yeah, just be an entrepreneur within the realm of this work.
Yeah, so as an entrepreneur, I mean, which I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur since the time I was a little kid. I was like doing car washes and collecting bottle cans to turn in for 5 cents each, and so I always had that that mentality to want to work for myself. Um, but with that and all the pressures and the obligations and everything that's asked of people who choose that path, I realized that that makes us in the roles of creators, especially. I think, first of all, that all humans are creators, all of humankind, we are creators naturally, but entrepreneurs are that on steroids, right? And with that comes the responsibility to ensure that we can stay creative and to stay at peace for ourselves and for our families. And working through a program like this has really enabled me to understand that it's not about the accomplishments. It's not about doing enough so that I'm worthy, or accomplishing enough so that I'm worthy, but that I'm worthy because it's inherent, and I'm worthy because I am, because I exist. And being able to understand that you're already worthy and you're not chasing that, it allows you to come from a place of true creativity, which is fun and expansive, as opposed to like fearful and anxious. And so that's really what this allows people like me to do, and other entrepreneurs, is to be able to create what they love from a place of peace rather than from a place of stress or strain.
Yes, incredible. One thing I want to ask you, right, is a lot of the work that we do is healing. And some, people, yeah, like call me a spiritual coach, and a lot of this work does fit to spirituality. I know that you've had some crazy spiritual breakthroughs on your own journey, right? Whether it's, synchronicities that come, whether it's in the music, I know you made a video about it, or learning to just connect with higher dimensional beings and just God, if you want to call it that. Can you talk a little bit about just your experience kind of unlocking the spirituality component of things and maybe how that's played a role in just, yeah, your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always known in like the existence of like my spirit team or spirit guides, because my first journey with psilocybin, like back in 2019, I had 7 grams and I met my spirit guides, and so during that experience, so it was really cool. I was like, holy crap! I was like, this is insane. So that part I already really knew, but I didn't have like the established connection that I do now with that higher consciousness in terms of what I believe to be my spirit team, people that I selected and that were, that selected me before I incarnated here in order to guide me, to encourage me, to help me stay on the path of my highest self. And over the last few months, that connection has really strengthened. I've been able to pay attention to it more. There's been moments where I've just been sitting there and I just like feel like this like my mind will flash with like the idea of like these people cheering, or like tapping or like hugging me on the back, or yeah, tapping me on the back and um just really, letting me know that I'm doing a good job or being very encouraging, and or it'll show up through a song that I need at the exact right time. And so just reestablishing that, notice I'm saying reestablishing, not establishing, but reestablishing that connection has been really helpful. And it is a constant reminder to me that I'm never alone and that I'm not alone and that I don't have to do any of this alone. So,
I love you said that, right? Because the entrepreneurship journey for most of us, right, it's pretty lonely and it's the unknown. In fact, it's a very unique spiritual path that we're creating something in the unknown. That is the path. And right, and we can lean on fear and control, or we can kind of, as work we do right here is to let go and sort of work with this higher realm, this higher force that's let it work through us. Um, what I want to ask is, you talked about some other roles that you are just naturally, right? As a leader, as a man, as a father, husband. Could you talk a little bit about how doing this in our work, making these changes within has affected just those aspects of your life?
yeah, absolutely. So outside of just the role of entrepreneur, like you mentioned, being a father, being a husband, being a son, being a brother, being a friend, it's really enabled me to connect more because when I am at peace with myself, I can actually be present. So many times before this, and oftentimes, and it's still a work in progress, but it's gotten noticeably better. But beforehand, it would be difficult for me to give my attention to anybody else because I feel like I have so much going on and so many things to handle, so many things to take care of, like for my family, that I wasn't able to really give them my consciousness, give them my spark of consciousness and shine the light of my consciousness on them and actually give them that because I was so many other places. But through this work of allowing and through feeling and then subsequently releasing, it allows me to be in the present moment. I can actually be present with myself, and because I've made that conscious decision. And then when I can be present for and with myself, then it makes it infinitely easy to be present with anybody else. I can just simply just tune in and I can actually be there. And that's made all the difference.
That's incredible. A lot of people are watching this, right? Again, I just work with a lot of, yeah, guys, entrepreneurs, people in business. How could you almost, maybe they're watching this and they're like, oh, emotions, spirituality, healing, like this is a new world to me. And it's something that most men are just not conditioned to, yeah, to be a part of, which actually creates the problems in itself. Could you talk a little
Mhm.
about just like your advice to, just speaking to other, yeah, guys out there that are interested in this kind of work, but yeah, they're just not exposed to any of this. Is there something you could just, yeah, tell them about
A-
just
a-
the world?
Absolutely. I mean, because I think we were all there at one point or another. I mean, I may look and dress like a hippie now, but I was a combat medic in the U.S. Army, deployed to Afghanistan, and I was I was the lead singer of a country band at one point, like playing in a bar. I mean, totally different. But that's what this type of work and psychedelics will do to you. So beware, you will turn into some form of a hippie. It just happens. You know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. No, but from coming from that, you know, that life of very third dimension, right? And not really having the understandings that I do now. And it's it's been night and day difference to be able to actually allow myself to feel that I'm worthy of that, and that I'm allowed to, and by doing so, I can free myself from the bullshit that's keeping me stuck. I can challenge the lies by feeling and by allowing, and then by subsequently releasing and freeing yourself. Because that's really what it's about. It's not about what somebody is accustomed to or not, because change is going to require, I think, you know, require that of them anyway. Is an adjustment, is a transformation, no matter what. I think the question for me was, it's like, how free do I want to be? You know, and that was the question. How free do I want to be? Do I want to be a kind of free? Do I want to be sometimes free on the weekends? Do I want to, you know, be free sporadically, or do I, how free do I want to be? I want to be totally free. I want to be totally free. And so that's really the question that has to be answered.
Oh, that's incredible. You yourself are a healer, right? And I don't just mean that because you did my program, but like, yeah, you set still a vibe, and you're providing that space for people, and you see all sorts of people come through looking for certain answers or results they want in their life. Having gone through the work that we did together, and just yeah, a lot of the kind of guys that I work with and people out there, what do you just think would be like the greatest benefit or thing that they could get from this work, doing this kind of work, coming into it?
Well, you know, showing up for their people. You know, the healers need healers too. You know, that's just the way it is until they can fully become their own. You know, and that's something special too that I think this program really nails. It really works on. Um, but just to be fully transparent, you know, yesterday when we had our weekly gathering, I told our membership last night that, hey, this is the most powerful spiritual practice that I could possibly share with you. This is the most meaningful and the most result driven and the most expansive spiritual practice that I have ever been exposed to and that I could possibly ever share with you. And we talked about it, and we went over this specifically last night. And it's something that the keys sometimes, the locks sometimes unlock in phases, right? And you know, slowly, it's over time, but if you stick with it, the epiphanies will come. They won't have a choice but to. It's just a natural byproduct of doing this work. And with the epiphanies and with the answers, you can snowball it into more and more meaning, where it just takes the pressure off of life. It just takes we take this shit way too seriously, and it wasn't meant to be taken this seriously. And this helps again uncover those lies.
I appreciate that, Zach. Well, I want to respect your time and thank you for coming on. But I just have one last question for you. Is just for everyone who's watching this, is there just one last piece of advice you would just have for them? Is they're watching this, maybe okay, should I do this at work? Yeah, what could you say to them?
Yeah, so just in closing, is that I would want to tell you that you're worth it. If you're considering this, if you're considering doing it, you are worth it. It's not a matter of it's not a question of whether the program is worth it or not. It's because it absolutely is. That's not the question. The question you have to answer for yourself is reminding you that you're worth doing it. You're worth doing it. So that's the best advice I have. That and stick with it. Stick with it because you are worth it. And the lie that you've been programmed or that's been told to you, or that maybe one person thought in your life that you were not worth it, that is the lie that this is breaking down. And that's the lie that releasing will set you free.
That's incredible. That's one of the greatest answers I've ever heard from this question. And I've asked it dozens of times in interviews, and I think it's so accurate because, including myself, right, in healing, is that it keeps us stuck in our old patterns and fear and not being the absolute best, freest version of ourselves. Is that some part of us secretly doesn't believe we're worth it, and it sabotages
Hmm.
that, and it kills our
Yep.
freedom. So I love that you say it as it is, and it's true that we're all worth it. So anyway,
Yeah.
Jack, I appreciate you, Todd, for coming on as a human being, for doing this work. And even right now, I see the light beaming on you in the sunlight. Or so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's with you always. And yeah, really appreciate it, Zach. Thank you for coming on. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Madison. Take care. We'll talk soon.